Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to another episode of Our Roots in Tea, where we explore our minds and life while we enjoy a cup of tea. We always do this exploration with all types of people offering unique life experiences. I'm happy to have had conversations with some amazing people, and this episode is no different. We have a group of talented female content creators stopping by for a chat. This group accumulated a mountain of industry experience and have produced a variety of visually stunning work, ranging from film to promo shoots to fashion photography. And today, I've got three amazing women with me today. They're known as the Nightshade Collective. So got Ashley and April Mendoza and Alexa Morales.
Hello.
Thank you very
Hello.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yes, and
Got
actually
my
right off.
tea.
Okay, Alexa's drinking tea, which is
Sorry.
yeah.
I have coffee.
Coffee. Okay,
Coffee.
Green tea.
okay,
Hey.
cool. April's drinking tea too. Okay, so everyone's actually following tradition except myself.
What?
Yeah, I'm drinking coffee too. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, yay.
Coffee counts. It should
That's
count.
okay.
Yeah, coffee.
Bean tea.
Bean
Right,
tea.
right. Yeah. So I guess to kind of start off right off the bat, why the name Nightshade? What's the story behind that?
Well, we're
Okay, I'm like, oh yeah.
fans of
anyone can ask.
Nightmare Before Christmas. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, yeah. There's a quick little scene where it shows a little potion when Sally's like whipping up some things and it just says like nightshade, deadly nightshade on it. So it's just like a type of like herb or like flower. And we're like, that's a cool name.
Yeah, so and the more we looked into it, it's like a deadly flower essentially. And there's also different vegetables that are part of the nightshade family, but they're usually kind of like in the deadly groups. And so we love the contrast between, like things that are beautiful and things that are deadly and dark. And so it was kind of the perfect representation of who we are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure you've probably that wasn't the first name that came up, right? You probably went through.
No.
Okay.
I feel like you've done your research.
Yes.
You're talking about the first name that we came up with or the first name that...
First name you came up with.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we started out as Eclectic Minds 5, which is looking back is an interesting name.
Yeah.
But we started with 5 of us. It was us 3 and then 2 other friends. And we all had different sort of interests and hobbies and sort of career fields. But we all liked working together and we all liked the creative arts. And so we wanted to sort of create a group where we can kind of just like put out content and do creative stuff. And so we came up with this name Eclectic Minds 5 because we felt we had eclectic interests.
Yeah, so you're trying to figure out like what it is that we wanted to do. And there's just so many things. So
yeah,
I think it just fit perfectly.
And that was back in like 2000, was it 14?
16? Oh no, I don't know actually. Maybe sooner.
Maybe 17.
Okay.
Something like that. And that lasted for maybe about a year. And we experimented with the YouTube space. And I don't know, I feel like maybe we realized it wasn't exactly what we wanted to do. And then some of our friends ended up sort of going their own ways and we're still really good friends, but they sort of focused on their main careers. And so we sort of continued this as a more film and photography kind of path and rerouted a little bit and changed our name. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I read a little bit that you're all family, right? Supposedly. I mean,
yeah.
I'm guessing Ashley and April are sisters.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and Alexa is the
Our
cousin.
Cousin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'm kind of curious, like how's that dynamic like? Because working with family members sometimes may be kind of weird, right?
Right.
Yeah, they say you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah, they do, but I don't know. We just have a
out.
great, I think so too. It just, I don't know. We have like the same interests and, love for horror and all things, but I think, I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when we sort of would tell people that we work together and that we want to kind of create this brand and essentially like a company, a lot of people I felt were trying to discourage it.
Because everyone has heard that old saying, like, oh, don't work with your family, anyone but your family. And so I don't know. I think that we sort of just ignored everybody and made it work out, because we do everything together. We grew up together. We like a lot of the same things, like Alexa said. And
even before like Eclectic Minds and Nightshade, we were already kind of doing things together, just without an official title, more just like for like learning and for fun school projects when April was in college. So we're just like, it kind of makes sense. We know how we work together and it works.
Yeah. I feel like if there were to be an issue, it's only that we literally just work all the time together. So it's trying to find like that time, we have to make like little, I guess, dates for us to really be cousins, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? But we're always just like work, and it just works so well.
Yeah.
So. And sometimes, of course, we all get snappy with each other because, especially my sister and I, we're sisters. So like we're used to communicating a certain way.
Yeah.
And then Alexa's just like on the sidelines laughing at us. But I think even like with my sister and I, like we fight sometimes, but we get over it pretty fast. Right. So it's never anything serious. And at the end of the day, we sort of, we know that we, care about each other, and we want what's best for each other and for, us as a whole. So we never take anything personally.
Yeah. Communication.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're all professionals. You're there to work and, get things done, right? So that's kind of the creation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I actually read about this too. I like it how everyone has like a particular role, because, April usually does a lot of the writing and directing, it seems like. And then Ashley and Alexa is kind of more like the art department type of deal. So I guess that's a pretty good balance.
Yeah,
exactly. They're my art team. And so that's like in the film space, like when we're working on shorts or our first feature, I was the producer on that. Or, if I'm doing short films, I'll be directing those and writing those. And so the girls will come on as production designers. But also like we do a lot of photography and creative direction. So when it comes to that sort of dynamic, we all give each other ideas and we come up with a creative direction together. And then the girls they specialize in like all the production design aspect of things, building the sets, even like with props, creating crowns, like a lot of DIY projects. And because that's not really my forte, but I love it. And then, so I kind of take on the sort of photographer and producer role a lot, and director role.
Okay, cool. So I guess I want to get into this because I do have some key topics, but I'm going to change up the order a little bit.
Yeah, no worries.
And I was watching the short film earlier today. It was Hollow Hour. The one that April wrote and directed, and Alexa and Ashley were the art team. So take me through that process of making that short in terms of the directing and production design standpoint.
Yeah, so Hollow Hour was our first big project together. It was my first short as a director, first serious project, I would say. And it was the girls' first project as production designers. So it was a big first for all of us. And I think we all just wanted to jump into this space and do something bigger than we've done before. And, so it was a really fun process, and it's completely self-funded. So we were constantly trying to save money and invest in the project. We shot it in my house, my sister and I's house. And we were working on this for, I want to say for about a year. Like I know I was writing the film for some time, and then I put it aside and I redeveloped it. I tried to make it into a feature, and then I, took it back to a short, and then decided that I just wanted to start planning it. And so that's when I sort of brought the girls on. And I know Alexa and I worked a lot on the previs, which is just sort of like, Alexa, maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, Ashley, help me out here if you can. But so we use previs. So it's just to kind of mimic the rooms, and just to kind of see like where April wants to take it. So that helped a lot. We wanted to do kind of like a snake tank, for the house, like for the entire field production design. Like she's in the snake tank. So it was lots of, looking for plants and things like that. So lots of thrifting and yeah, it was fun. We loved it. We enjoyed it. And I think that's when I definitely knew, I'm like, this is what I want to, this is where I want to take my career in film. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think that's like kind of where we learned like production design. A lot of it is just like the planning and the blueprint and the breakdown of the script and all that. And then from there is like, all right, now it's time to shop and get everything, make sure everything looks good, the like color palettes and how to like bring the script to life in like a way that's like it matches. So like if the feel is like, oh, she's trapped in her life and it's like she has her snake Maggie who's in a tank, like how can we make the home feel the same way?
Yeah, exactly.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I guess a little backstory on the film itself, like the major themes of the film, which you saw it, are change, like the inevitability of change and, mourning and relationships and how those things are always constantly changing. And so there's like a snake motif throughout the film. And so it's constantly shedding its skin and eventually escapes the tank. And so like, it's representative of the main character, Sonara. And so a lot of things there's always like a play on something, like always sort of juxtaposing like the snake and the character, using the colors red and green a lot. And then each room was a very specific feel and they all represented different things. And so I worked really closely with the girls on these rooms and these the sets to make sure they felt like that feel, the mood, and very definitely. Unique to that scene.
Yeah,
so it's very important.
Just kind of like the subtleness where it's just at a house, but you're able to create this kind of very creepy atmosphere, right? Because there's some shots where there's a little bit of smoke or something that's coming out, and I'm like, where'd that come from? So it's kind of, it's just
a dreamlike.
Yeah. Every room I think is very unique, and there's some shots I like in there, the look of it. I think towards the end there's one where it was like a wider shot, and then there's like a mirror on the side where it's like a reflection of the other female character, and then there's like the window curtains are like kind of red, brown.
Red orange.
Actually a very interesting kind of color kind of
I'm
look.
glad you caught that though.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Wow.
On a first watch that people would catch the mirror reflection.
Yeah, because I noticed that there's something different, like because her reaction she wasn't really laughing. Well, she was kind of smiling, but little.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun working on this project, and so I think the art side of the film process is very important to me. So that's why we all work so well together, because I do value it pretty highly in the hierarchy of filmmaking.
Okay. And how long of a pre-production was it?
I think
like a month, I feel like. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say about a month of like serious pre-production, but like I said, I was developing it for like some time. So excluding the writing process, probably like a month, maybe a month and a half, just slowly gathering like props and stuff from thrift stores and slowly sort of saving up for it and things like that. But, on average about a month and a half or so.
And then, of course, you went through the process of casting and auditions and all that too.
That was so much fun.
Oh, that was so fun.
I do. I love casting. Yeah. So, it was funny because I usually set up like a casting, like an audition at a place called Space Station in LA. And, and so usually book the room for about 3 hours and just sort of see who comes in. And so I'm casting for 3 main roles. And I found one of my actors through Space Station. And so that was after watching like dozens of people's auditions. Because it's a very specific character, for these people. And so it's always hard to find the right person. And so I found my male lead in that process. And then with my 2 sisters, it was a harder process because they had to look alike, at least look, similar enough alike. And they had to fit these sort of different dynamics. One is a little bit more adventurous and spontaneous and has more of an edge. And the other one's the lead who has she's a little bit more timid, and but she has to have a pretty big range because, she has a lot of emotions flowing through her. And so, you know, I found one of my actors through Instagram, surprisingly. Yeah, and I just messaged her and I was like, would you like to audition? And then the other one I actually posted through Instagram as well, but a friend at the time had auditioned for the lead role, and so she sent me a video audition, and I said, you're hired. And so like I really lucked out there. So Instagram's been a pretty good tool for casting. But it was really fun developing the characters. You know, we have these table reads. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we sort of just sit at a table and we go through the whole script, the first, you know, the draft that my final draft version, and we read it aloud and kind of see like what needs to be changed. And so I'll kind of rewrite based on that. And then we do, you know, rehearsals at the house that we're going to be shooting at. And then we sort of do a little bit more of rewriting. And then that's sort of how we develop that. And of course, I'm working closely with each actor and trying to get them to sort of relate to the roles and to the scenes and sort of just like really get to know them. It's a very personal process. So I love it because I do love people, and I love to explore their, like, you know, their psyche and everything.
And then my guess is that, you know, Alexa and Ashley, they have some input on this.
Yeah, exactly. They're always there for the table reads and the rehearsals. And I think you guys also helped me with the auditions, right?
What was that? Sorry.
Didn't you guys watch the auditions with me too?
Yes, I was going to say that's why it was so fun. I remember actually watching the tapes with April in her room, and then just having it all come to life is just, it's awesome.
It was an exciting
really
time.
Cool. It really was. Yeah.
So I always ask their opinions on things, and we're very, you know, collaborative. Like, I love asking them what they think about, like the set dress and the production design. Like, love to give them creative freedom, give them enough to go off of, but give them enough creative freedom to sort of explore and do their thing.
You know, I had a thought because, you know, you're talking about the two sister characters. I was thinking like, okay, well, you want them to look. I was thinking like maybe could have been more like you and Ashley play those characters because you want two people looking alike, right? I'm sure someone has asked you that.
Are you suggesting that we should have played the girls?
I mean, maybe it's possible.
I'm pretty shy. I don't like to be in films personally.
Okay.
I'm not really a great actress.
They're being modest.
but no, these girls, they starred in my films back in the day. So they've been in stuff before. They used to be like my main actors, and we started branching out and stuff like that. But
I think Alexa is more of the actress type.
Yeah. Still a dream.
Not me.
One day. But I just fell in love with production design, just being behind the scenes and really creating that whole world. So I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. But yes, acting is lots of fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And well, this question is actually important because in this process, after making this short film, this is for each person. Mm-hmm. What kind of life lessons did you learn from doing this project?
There are so many. I feel like just kind of to trust the process and just like trust that like you need to do your role and everyone's going to do their role and it's all going to come together. So like just as a team, I guess teamwork. Yeah.
Yeah. To piggyback off of that, exactly the same. Trust the process, trust your partners, and really work with people that are like-minded if you can, because that just makes it so much like flow so much nicer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty much the same. Like, I mean, piggybacking on that, you know, just rolling with the punches. I know I learned a lot through the process because there was moments during the filmmaking process where we lost footage and things like that. And it was like a big deal, you know, because I had like an editor on site, and then my assistant camera, you know, that's usually the person who transfers the footage, and they sort of hand off the footage, copy the footage, give the card back, and then, you know, take it back to the director of photography. And so it's like a whole process. And so we were filming late at night for some reason. I mean, I love shooting at night, but I wanted to shoot during the hollow hour, which is 4 a.m. And so, you know, we were shooting pretty late nights, like till 5, sometimes 6 in the morning. And so like one thing I learned was that you maybe shouldn't because you're not as efficient, you're not as awake, you know, so mistakes happen the later it gets and when people become exhausted. And mind you, like filmmaking days are usually 12 hours plus. So it's pretty heavy on people. And so, yeah, we lost footage one of the days and it was like a whole scene and I didn't know what to do. And so I sort of just told myself not to freak out and just figure out what's next. And we ended up just like reshooting the scene and it ended up better. And so we managed to make the day. We had to do another pickup day just to kind of make time. But yeah, what I learned was just not to freak out and just to roll with the punches, think on your feet and just, you know, don't worry about it because it ends up working out somehow.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that always happens like on shoots is like things don't always go as planned. So just don't panic and just like know like this is gonna happen and just do what you can. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like always having like a plan B, plan C, like all the way down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, be quick to think on your feet.
Yeah.
Something always goes wrong. There's a rule. It always happens.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And
the thing that I learned is expect something to go wrong because it will. And so that's it.
That's it. Okay. And actually that's a good way to kind of segue into this is that, you know, of course, being in the male dominated industry, it is tough to be female filmmakers or content creators. And so for you, besides the short film, what are some other obstacles that each one of you have had to overcome in this case?
Definitely not being taken seriously.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to mention anybody.
Yeah,
but we actually found this Mexican duo. It's like a banda and like rap group type of thing. And really, I feel like it was a match made in heaven, creative wise. For aesthetic, you know, they wanted like Dia de los Muertos right up our alley. And we were like, oh my gosh, like we've never done anything like this. This is perfect, right up our alley. And, you know, we were going back and forth with these guys and they actually flaked on a few, like actually all the meetings that we planned. And I don't want to cuss on here.
No, you can cuss. You can
cuss.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like everybody like wants to, you know, like fuck us, but really it was more of like, it was just respectful where he flaked on the meetings and hey, so what's your number? Or it was just kind of like that, you know, where he would take it. Just
like reply to like all your selfies on Instagram, like trying to like hit on you.
Yeah. So it's just like not being taken seriously and it sucks.
Yeah.
So you got to have like that bitch energy to really, you know, get your point across. And shouldn't have to be that way.
Exactly.
I think some guys, they try to like frame it as like, oh, let's work together. And then like, they don't talk about work at all. They're just like trying to like flirt or like take you out or like, let's go get drinks instead of like, let's go get coffee and talk about work.
Yeah.
Wow. So it is a very typical Hollywood scene. Like,
and especially in the music industry too, I feel like it's really common, especially with them.
Yeah.
It's a lot of flaking and then I guess just not taking you seriously as like a fully female collective. Because I feel like if there's like a male present, it's like, okay, maybe they're serious. But if it's like an all-female group, they're like, oh, you know, I don't know about this. It's always like this sort of underlying misogyny and like skepticism that I feel like but so like I feel like over time like I've dealt with a lot of that as well and I've had to sort of develop. I know that there's a follow-up question and you mentioned like a mindset that you had to develop and I feel the mindset is not exactly be a bitch but to sort of just be stern and professional and sort of just like, I mean you should always be professional but maybe just don't be too nice because sometimes that gets taken the wrong way. And it's unfortunate because, you know, we're pretty nice people and we want to be nice, but for some reason it just, I don't know, it hasn't worked that well for me. to be too nice. So I think there's got to be like a balance.
Definitely got to be more assertive for sure.
Yeah, I guess just to not be scared that you're going to be perceived as a bitch if you're just like very just like focused and like stern with everything. Like,
Yeah.
oh well, if you want to think I'm a bitch, then do that. But
And
there's plenty of people that will want to work with us, and we won't have this particular problem with them. So you know, you just have to find the right people and scare away the wrong people. So that's
why we usually work with women. You know, it's just like it happens organically. It's easier, and I mean, we have nothing against men, but it's just that's how it is. You know, yeah.
Oh no, I agree with you. I mean, just coming from my standpoint, I mean, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, there's just not a lot of women in the industry, and
yeah,
and it's a shame because, like, for me, like, you know, sometimes I will look for crew members for like a specific project, and what I realize is I don't know if it has something to do with, you know, maybe a lot of women, the confidence is much lower in this industry because
for sure.
I look at some of the resume and there's a lot of women, they have a lot of experience, they've done a lot, but for whatever reason, like they'll apply for positions like a production assistant. And I'm thinking in my head, like, well, I can easily find production assistant anywhere. I mean, you can qualify for this, then why not apply for that position? Like something like higher up. You know,
that's what I was gonna say. Like another thing with like being like a woman in the industry is just like dealing with imposter syndrome, which is pretty much what you just said. Just like thinking like, oh, like, am I qualified for this job? Like I have all this experience, but like I don't know. And I think that's just, it has to do with like how like boys and girls are raised differently. Like men are just much more confident in what they do and like applying for jobs that they may be unqualified for, or they just are like, hey, I know I could do this. And that's something that women need to be more like confident doing. Just like go for it. Like you probably are very qualified.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most of them are. Yeah, they you know, a lot of them, they also have camera experience too. So if I'm looking for like a DP, I mean, I've never worked with a female DP, but then I'm just thinking like, well, why didn't you just apply for that? I mean, it's not like I'm not gonna look at it. You know? So
definitely hard to come by.
Yeah, so I think that, I don't know, that mindset is a little interesting in that way, which I was curious why that would be.
Yeah, and it also has to do with the fact that maybe there isn't that much representation with like female directors or, you know, female heads of departments, like female DPs. You know, whenever I book a gig, it's very rare that I see female DPs or even like ACs, and pretty much it's usually like one or two women, or like they're usually in the art department or makeup department. So it's like you don't see that representation. So in your head, you're sort of thinking like, well, maybe I can't do that. So like that's kind of a big deal. Like
it feels like it's going to be a lot harder. So it's a little like discouraging, like maybe subconsciously.
Yeah, like when I was younger, I think I was like 13 or something like that. That was the first time that I realized that I could pursue filmmaking, and it was because of a movie called The Holiday. It's a Nancy Meyers film, and you know, I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, who's in it?
I've heard of it.
Black, Cameron Diaz,
Jack
Black,
and
Kate Winslet.
Thank you. Yeah,
and so Cameron Diaz plays this sort of like head of a trailer company, you know, and so she's a boss, and she's like, you know, calling all the shots, and she owns her own company, and she's working in the film industry like as a very successful woman. And I was like, wow, that's cool. That's really cool, you know. And I didn't realize that there was a lot like that this even existed for women. So I think that really matters.
Right.
Yeah, representation for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of a double whammy too, because not only you're all female filmmakers or content creators, but also people of color.
Yeah.
That kind of adds into the difficulty, I would assume.
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, it is, but I guess the mindset I've also had to develop is almost ignoring that. Like being aware of it, but not letting yourself stand in the way, because if that's already sort of a roadblock, then you being more aware of it is only going to make it worse, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think just being aware of it in a way that you're just very authentic about it, and then just naturally like finding other people that are the same and working together and like kind of creating our own like community of like working with more Latinas or people of color.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to like break through like all these other white spaces, it's like, all right, let's do our own shit.
I love that. April, what's that that saying where it's like together, like if you want to make it fast.
It's like an old African adage or whatever. If you want to go far, no, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others or something like that.
Together.
Yeah.
That's cute.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult. I mean, it's difficult to break into this industry, period. Being a woman, I'm sure, and being a person of color, that all just makes it worse. And it's funny because I asked my high school teacher when I was like really naive, obviously. And I asked him, like, just be real with me. Like, is it harder for women in the industry? Like, because I didn't really know anything about it. And he told me, yeah, if I'm being honest, yes, it is. It is way harder. But if you make it, you'll know that you worked 10 times as hard as everybody else. And so that always stuck with me. And so I was like, okay, cool. Doesn't mean it's impossible. So, you know, you always just have to keep pushing forward and, you know, not taking no for an answer and just do your own thing. If no one wants to hire you, just make your own thing possible.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I like that. I like that approach. And, you know, it is hard. Filmmaking, I think, you know, male or female actually is really hard to break in general.
Yeah.
And so my question is like, I'm guessing that there was probably a lot of points that you thought about, any one of you probably thought about giving up, right? And doing something else.
No, I'm just
I'm like,
I'm kidding. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
no, of course.
I feel like that thought always crosses our minds, like every now and then. Like, okay, for me especially, like 2019 was a pretty horrible year for me. Just in terms of just like being at the lowest, and like it was very difficult finding jobs as like a freelancer and, you know, trying to find gigs for our company. And it was just very discouraging. And so it was very hard. And I realized just how little money there was when you're starting out. And so I definitely thought about it, but I never really took any steps to do it.
Yeah. And same here. I think it's just more of like the family pressures, you know, of having someone trying to break through in the industry. You know, obviously your parents want nothing but like stability for you. Yeah. So I think just, I went through the same thing as April. I think I'm still going through it right now. But that does cross my mind, you know, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just get like a stable job, you know, but I always have these girls to remind me like, no, like, that's not what you want. Like, keep going after what you want. So it's not, that's why it's like another positive, you know, to work with your cousins, with your family. So
yeah. And I think that's kind of the good thing about having Nightshade Collective is like, okay, like even if it's a little harder to like book these outside gigs, like we're going to continue doing our thing. So like we're always just perfecting our craft and getting our names out there and just like staying focused.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. Like the, you know, you got to persist. And the thing is that because if you're good at what you do, this feels like kind of pointless to try to work some regular job.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's kind of wasting time a little bit, right? In a way.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's just not going to be fulfilling at the end of the day. Like you're just going to hate your life.
Yeah.
I'd rather struggle trying to like do some shit I love than like
100%.
have a stable job and I like fucking hate it every day.
Absolutely.
Counting down the hours and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks. We worked in the service, like as waitresses for
a long time.
Years. Yeah.
Too long.
Long time.
In the beginning stages, we were doing that while, you know, trying to work on this career. And so finally, like, you know, I broke away and sort of broke into like TV a little bit. And it's like that helped me like never look back. And so since then, I, you know, knock on wood, haven't had to go back to like something outside of the industry, but it took many years to get there. So like, I understand, you know, like starting out, it definitely gets discouraging if you aren't seeing anything successful happening.
And you have to do like what you have to do to like make ends meet at the end of the day. So like, if that's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's so easy to pull money from anywhere, you know,
you
really need to. So.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've had to donate plasma to make ends meet.
We all did, yes.
Donate plasma.
My
For being
iron
Yes.
levels were too low, so I couldn't.
Oh.
Yeah, I was trying.
Forgot.
I was
Yeah.
doing that, for like
A few months, and it was just to make extra income. I'm not sure how familiar. It's like donating blood, but it's plasma. They put it back into your,
your
Is it,
system.
is it good pay?
Is it what?
Is it good
Oh,
pay?
okay.
I mean, it can be. It's, I think,
Yeah,
if you dedicate like a few hours, I think it's like 1 hour pretty much for every session, and you go twice a week, you can get up to like $300-$400.
Oh wow.
That's some bills right there.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty
And they
good.
have specials, like different, for different months. Like usually during the holidays, you get a little bit of a bonus.
$300-$400 a month, or
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So I mean,
it's like bills right there.
There's
Just a little
ways.
extra side
Exactly.
money.
yeah. So it's
We've done a lot of things. We've had to contemplate so many things in our life, but we always just find a way.
Well, here's a question, because it's funny. You said 2019 was tough, but then we all know what happened 2020. So
Yeah.
how did everyone adjust to that? Because work is probably
yeah.
Not consistent
Lord.
right now.
Yeah. Well, you guys want to go first?
Ashley?
I don't even know. 2020 was just like crazy. And like, okay, so 2019 we were all living together in Fullerton. So that was like our first time moving out. It was us three and another friend and like her boyfriend. So like we were like struggling, to like make rent, but we were also working a lot 2019, like put out a lot of like cool projects, photo shoots. So it was like, best of both worlds. But we were like, okay, we should move back home, save money. But luckily we did that because that's when freaking COVID struck. And like, yeah, like there was no work. So it was kind of a blessing that we ended up moving back home, and just like we're blessed to be able to be living at home right now. So I think that just helped, and I'm just like grateful for that. And like just working really hard. So it just like put on my head, like, this is the time to just like really just try as hard as you can.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and like for me, like beginning of 2020, I was actually working constantly, like more than I've ever worked in my life, from January to March. So I was like, yeah, things are going well. And I started getting booked. I was on the show, and it was a crazy experience. Like, it took up all my time. Like, I was working, like, with the commute, it was like 16-hour days, and I was exhausted. I didn't have time for Nightshade. I didn't have time for my, my now company, Wild 7. And so I didn't have time for like my personal projects, a lot of things that were unfinished. And so it was getting to the point where it was like bothering me. And so when COVID hit, it was like sort of a blessing in disguise also. And everything shut down, and it sort of just helped us focus on finishing projects and just sort of powering through. So that was honestly really helpful. And 2020 was a pretty okay year for us.
Other than, definitely an okay year.
Yeah, obviously.
Other than the pandemic and all, getting COVID.
Right.
But I'll tell you, 2019 was worse for me.
Oh, okay, even worse, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay. Now I'm gonna shift a little bit with the some of the stuff I want to talk about. So there was a couple images on the website and also Facebook page. I think I mentioned this too on the email. It was like, one is a woman, and then also the guy holding like the bloody heart, and then you got the scar in the chest. So what's that about? What,
That was 2019 actually, when we started doing photo shoots out of like our garage. And it was a Valentine's shoot, and that kind of just started the tradition of doing a shoot every year on Valentine's Day. But I kind of just wanted to, or I guess I really like Valentine's Day, like the whole aesthetic, like the colors, like the hearts, love, all that. And then we do horror a lot, work with blood a lot. So I think just like bringing out that like love can be painful, and like it can be interpreted as like oh, you broke my heart. So it just feels like someone rips your heart out of your chest, or like loving someone so much that you're just like, here's my heart. And
On a
just,
platter,
yeah, like, I fucking love you.
Yes, we're a bit dramatic.
Yeah, definitely. We are really dramatic and very romantic.
Yes.
So
we are.
I would add
always showcasing that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So would you say you're a hopeless romantic in a way?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are you into astrology at all?
No, but I start to read a little bit about it, but okay.
That's
So
interesting,
what about astrology?
Well, okay, so you have like different planets that are ruled by different like zodiac signs or whatever, and my Venus is in Leo, and Venus is like the planet of love. So I think that explains why I'm a hopeless romantic. Leo just being the very dramatic like sign, and just like
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Like, give me all the love.
There's a lot to astrology, so we'd have to kind of break everything down.
Yeah. There are levels.
Podcast.
It's fun.
But yeah,
that's interesting, because whenever I read stuff of astrology, it always sounds like the stuff they say is like so general. Like I'm not sure how accurate it may be. But.
Well, you're probably thinking of horoscopes.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's kind of what most people know about astrology, and that I completely agree, because a lot of that is bullshit and it is generic, but it's supposed to be kind of like almost like a gateway drug into astrology. But astrology is completely different. There's also natal charts, which is like very accurate to you, and it depends on where you live, what day you're born, what month, what year.
Yeah. And I think what was the name of that psychologist? I think Carl Jung or Carl Jung.
Yeah.
He actually used astrology to get to know his patients in that way. So he found that rather than really, like, he would talk, obviously he would do his thing, but he found that reading their natal charts actually gave him more insight into who they were as a person, and it matched up, so there's more than just like, oh, I'm a Leo, there's like, you have it's just you have
you're
all
more than just your sun sign.
Exactly.
Rising sign and your moon sign, and then you go even deeper, like what rules your Venus, what rules your Mercury. That's your planet of communication. So
and it's more of just like a tool for introspection and just trying to like better yourself and understand yourself, I think.
And I think the reason that mostly women have been into astrology, like especially here in the Western culture, is because I think, obviously it seems pretty brand new, but it's also that you have to be introspective. And so you have to be willing to want to learn about yourself and point a mirror up to your face and say, like, this is who I am, and I'm willing to see into it and learn about it and change. Yeah. And so, whether you believe it or not, I think it's a very, very great, powerful tool into learning about other people and yourself.
Yes.
It sounds like everyone here has studied astrology for some time, right? Like, it's not just recently.
A little.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about it just like kind of horoscope level back in the day, and then gradually started working our way up. I think last year maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I think like the last like few years.
Yeah.
Like we definitely know more than the average person, but like we're barely tapping in. Like once you really learn how much there is to it, it's like we're at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. You're a student for life with astrology. There's always something.
Okay.
But we love it. We did a whole photo shoot based on the astrology.
Oh, yeah. That's very nice. Okay. So Ashley had told me her sign and everything. What about Alexa? What about you, April? Like, what have you learned about yourselves?
Oh, about our signs? Well, okay, like I'm an Aries, so that's just my sun sign, so I'll just start there. So the Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so they call it the baby of the zodiac. And so like for me, I think the year should start when Aries season starts, it just started back March 20th, I believe. So whenever spring started, that's when Aries season starts. So it marks the beginning of spring. It's the first sign, and the animal that's associated with it is a ram. And then the god that it's associated with it is Ares, or Mars, if you're talking about the Roman gods, because they use Greek and Roman gods, and they usually cross over. They're pretty much the same. But yeah, so it's Ares, and he's god of war. And the color of it is red because, Mars is also red. So if you put all those things together, that's kind of what Aries is. You're this sort of, they're known to be leaders. They're known to be very headstrong, irrational, impulsive, childlike, because
pioneers.
You're sort of like the warrior of the zodiac, and you're always sort of just like taking the lead with your horns and just sort of pushing through and not thinking about it, just doing it. So you're definitely a doer, not a thinker. And so that's kind of who I am. I do relate to it a lot.
Okay.
And my son's a Leo, the lion, and their ruler is the sun. So, I don't even know how I would describe a Leo. I don't want to be like, but they're very stubborn. They're known to be very egotistical, sometimes prideful. I mean, you think the lion, so very protective and low key a softie, but
nurturing.
Yes. And what else am I missing? Yeah.
I mean, think of like a sun too, sun and the lion, always the center of attention, very loving, big hearts, nurturing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm actually a Virgo, by the way. It was just my Venus that is ruled by Leo. I have a lot of Leo placements in my chart. So Virgo is the goddess.
Yes.
So just kind of not really, it's like the virgin, I guess. Yeah. So it's just more like newness more than like an actual virgin, but very analytical and just like quiet and observant more than anything. And just it's ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of like communication.
Yes.
Yeah. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, this is all very highly fascinating because I have no clue on any of this stuff. I didn't
know your sun sign.
What's that?
Oh, I was asking.
Birthday.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you mean my birthday?
Yeah.
It's April 14th.
Oh, you're an Aries.
You're an Aries.
Yes, Aries.
Like April.
My birthday's April 12th.
Oh, okay, so 2 days. Okay, so it's all within that range, right? Basically. Okay.
It's like March 20th to April 21st or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I can kind of see why you're talking about like being a doer, just because it's almost like you just always want to be creative. You always want to be doing something.
Yeah.
So I think that sounds pretty accurate. In a sense.
You should look more into it.
Get into it.
Do it.
Well, I mean, maybe, but is there any relation with let's say the whole tarot cards reading, is that related to astrology or something different?
No, I think it relates more to spiritualism. They don't really relate per se, but it's all in the same world. I think people that are fascinated with astrology are fascinated with tarot readings, but Alexi, maybe I know she she has her own deck, and we definitely
I'm not like a tarot reader. I literally did this just for my friends. I really do love connecting with people. I feel like that's why I'm here. I swear I really love connecting with people, and that's like a perfect way to do it. It's therapeutic and it gets people talking. So really, like whatever card you pull, I feel like anyone can really relate to it,
But they always seem so spot on. They always
do, but they really do. And it gets people talking, things that you're suppressing, it'll.
Yeah. But people, if you're religious, maybe you think of tarot cards and you think it's like black magic and it's forbidden. Like I know I grew up Catholic and we all did. So when I heard of tarot cards for the first time, I always just thought it was like scary and evil and
crap.
Brujeria and all this stuff, and you're gonna go to hell if you do it. Like I always thought that, but so a lot of people kind of still have that mindset, but it's definitely not a scary thing. They're just playing cards. I mean, they really don't mean anything. Like, I mean, I think they're just meant for playing cards back in the day, and they just have really cute drawings on them. There's like the Joker card. There's like Pentacles, like, 3 of Cups, and like they're like all. There's a death card, but it doesn't mean you're going to die or anything like that. So definitely, it's always, I think, misinterpreted.
Yeah.
So, I
mean, they're fun. It's like therapy, like Alexis said.
Right. And it's very often that they always portray it to be dangerous in movies because, they always show that.
The fortune teller, like, oh my God, tell you your future.
Yeah, it's not that at all.
It's not that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the more spiritual you are, some people feel like their ancestors or like spirit guides are trying to communicate with them through the cards too. So it could be a lot deeper and meaningful to other people that are like very into it, but it has the power that you give it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so you can also cleanse your deck and just make sure that the space that you're doing it in is clear of any kind of negative energy. So if you believe in energy and stuff like that, like just, I mean, energy is real, obviously, but just, you know, cleansing that space and just allowing yourself to have a good reading, then I don't see anything wrong with it.
Right. And, you know, it's actually interesting too, because I read a little bit on the bio that I can see why this would be the case, is that a lot of your work is kind of inspired by Mexican folklore. So I can kind of see sort of like the connection. And so the question was like, what is like your favorite one, favorite Mexican folklore, like each person, like, and why?
Okay.
I think we kind of started talking about this last night, and I mean, we did a photo shoot about La Llorona. I don't know if you saw that one or if you've heard about La Llorona before.
Yeah, they had a couple of movies about that, but I don't know.
Never that great.
I didn't see it. Yeah, it came out like I think like a year after or a few years after. I don't know. We did the shoot, but it's like that tale where a woman killed her kids because her husband, I think, asked her to, and then she just wants to kill herself after. Like she's just like, where are my kids? Like I freaking killed them. What the hell? So she's just haunting everybody that goes by that area, and just like her spirit just roaming forever, searching for her children.
Yeah.
So it's pretty creepy and just dark. That's probably like the most popular one. But I think last night we started talking about how just with our family stories that have been passed down, like a lot of them have to do with like the supernatural, and how we just grew up very accustomed to that with like family members, like seeing ghosts or spirits or talking to ghosts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's because, you know, in the Mexican culture, they view death very differently than we do here in like the United States. And it's not so much a scary thing. It's more of an accepting thing of like, you know, we accept that death comes no matter what. And so let's celebrate it. Let's celebrate the life. And so when you see like Dia de los Muertos, they celebrate people's lives and they give them gifts and they have parades and they give them food. And instead of here going to like a funeral where you're dressed in all black and you're crying the whole time, and it's like, it's a completely different vibe. And
well, because I think here like Halloween is more about like, oh, spooky, like all the evil spirits are going to be roaming around, and then like
children.
Dia de los Muertos is more about like, oh, like our family, everyone that has died, like let's remember them. And it's just colorful and beautiful. So it's just a contrast. It's completely different than like how it's here. So
and then like she said, a lot of our family members have had experiences with like ghosts in their homes, and like they swear by it, and they've you know, like my aunt in Mexico told us a story about how she always felt this presence, like just growing up, like, and she always kind of knew it was a child for some reason. And, you know, doors would always open without her turning the lock, like turning the doorknob, you know, like things would just turn on. She'd always see like the swing set going, and just like little occurrences. And it's also just a feeling. And then so one day she was sort of just like trying to figure out like why this spirit was bothering her, and not bothering because it wasn't negative, but she was just wondering like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, are you trying to, you know, send a message? And so she found like a little token, like a little toy car, and she put it on, what are those called?
Altar.
Oh, ofrenda.
Ofrendas? Yeah. It's like a little altar where you sort of, I guess like just remember past family members.
Like your loved ones that passed, their pictures on there with like their favorite like snacks.
Like offerings and stuff like that too.
But yeah, Coco.
Yeah.
April.
She did that, and she named him, like she gave him like a random name like Billy or Bob or something like that. And ever since, oh yeah, whatever. I know it's like Billy, it's not a Mexican name. So it was like Juanito or something like that. And ever since then, she didn't hear anything from this spirit. And so, you know, we always hear stories like this, and it's always these like ghost tales.
I have one.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
So my parents, when I was a baby, so my parents were at my grandma's house, and they were just watching TV, and they heard the back door, like they heard the key and like the doorknob turn and everything. They heard the door, like the door shut, and footsteps, like heavy male footsteps. And my mom just like they looked at each other, they both heard it, and she just ran outside with me. And so my dad just kind of went to go check it out, but the door was closed, no one was there. And when my grandma later came that day, he asked her, like what they heard. And my grandma just nonchalant, just, oh, that was your dad. That was your dad. He comes to visit, every now and then. But yeah, my grandpa passed away when my dad was like 15, really young. So he was just like, what? Just like freaked out. He's like, why are you taking this so well? Like he just comes to visit.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it's just like an acceptance. It's like, it's not a fear, it's an acceptance. And I don't know what it is, but we grew up with that sort of mentality. And so I feel like it definitely comes out in our work, and like through the films that I write, through our art projects, our, photography. We just love it, and it's nothing to be afraid of. It's more of just like a beautiful thing. And
really though, some people call us witches. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
We're misunderstood.
But it's like, it's not like that, it's just like we kind of just like accepted it, and we're just like, you know what, yeah, we are, like words are powerful, and we're gonna just manifesting. And so we're witches.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like in real life. It's not like in real life you three are like some, doing some devil worship.
No.
Yeah.
Or are we?
No.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
No.
Just kidding. No, we actually have a aunt in Mexico who, she was kind of like the outcast, and people thought she was a witch. So they kind of just like were like, okay, what the hell's going on with her? And she just ended up like living alone like her whole life.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because people were just so scared of it.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, I want to go talk to her. Like, she's probably really cool. Like, has a lot of wisdom.
She lived next door to our grandma's house where we used to stay in Mexico. And as kids, we weren't afraid of her, So it was like my sister and our other cousin and myself. We'd go next door, and I remember seeing like all these little trinkets all around her house, like little jars and like little musical like instruments, and it was definitely like a witchy house. But I mean, I never got any weird vibes from her. But so we're always exposed to it at a young age.
Okay.
But I think we're just more spiritual than anything.
Yeah, okay. And then from dad, obviously a lot of exposure to like horror films is my guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My dad was a big horror fanatic. Who got you into it, Alexa?
My dad, actually. My mom was always like, no, they're not supposed to watch this, they're too young.
Yeah.
My dad would just kind of be like, come on, like I'm gonna watch, I can watch, like Chucky or something.
That was like the first one I saw. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
just grew up around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first one was Scream with the cousins, all like the older guy cousins.
Yeah,
We're like, come on, we're gonna go watch Scream. I was like, yes. My mom would never let me, so I was stoked. And I loved it. Still one of my favorites to this day.
Scream it's not really a horror per se. I mean,
it's like the beginning of just like that slasher, and more of like a joke on itself type of thing, just like very tropey.
Yeah.
But I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Parts of it can be scary, but definitely more of a satire.
I was actually really scared of him though. Just like the thought of like a person like being in your house, like when you don't know they're there, and they just like run up on you and just stab you. That's scary. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah, it can happen in real life.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. Like, it's like, it's very real. Like, it could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just rare for women to love horror films. It's most women, they don't, they're scared, right?
I feel like actually growing up, all our guy cousins were like so scared of watching scary movies, and they would easily scare. And like, we were always like the only ones that were like, come on.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it has a lot to do with the way that women were portrayed, especially like in 90s and 2000s horror. I mean, I guess anything pre like 2010 with like the whole final girl sort of trope, and there's a lot of hidden misogyny in horror films too, so like a lot of women probably didn't like that. But I think there's a there's a revolution with horror films happening, and like there's so many new female film horror directors, and so like those are always really cool to see because they're different.
They're very different.
They're so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are definitely more and more in that kind of female horror filmmaker, because there's one horror film that I like. Female director. Her name's Jennifer Kent.
Oh yeah, the Babadook.
Yeah, Babadook. Yeah.
I love the Babadook.
I love it. So well made.
Yeah,
I
that was
think
a
she's
good
coming out
one.
with another film sometime last year. I think I forgot to look into it.
Oh yeah. She had that new film, but the new film is not like horror film. It's different.
Okay.
I don't know if you'll like it or females will like it, because it was really hard to watch, because in the beginning, not to spoil it, but in the beginning scenes there was like a really, really rough like rape scene, like the main female character being raped. It was just so
it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable. Even for me, it was like kind of really, really graphic. Like you wouldn't like it. I mean, you could still check it out if you want, but you wouldn't like it.
But it's interesting that it's coming from her, so I'd be interested to see what it was and what the message was.
I thought she kind of overdid it, because I mean, in one scene she was raped like 3 times. I'm like, how's that even possible? I mean,
oh my God.
Something like that. I'm just like, this is kind of unnecessary, at least in my point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's just like shit that really happens, and just like making people uncomfortable viewing it and saying like, yeah, like this actually happens. So I was actually just like reading about this like old like crazy murder that happened. I don't remember what part of Asia it was in. It's like a really popular, I was like on like serial killer TikTok, just like somebody was talking about it. And it's like a really popular one. It's really graphic. It's like so fucked up, about like this girl that kind of got kidnapped by these guys, and they had her locked up for like a year, and they just like took turns like raping her and like beating the shit out of her, like whipping her, like burning her, like tortured her for like a whole year. Yeah, like it's really fucked up. So I don't know.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wait, so did she die?
Yeah.
Oh.
After being tortured for a year.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't think anyone would want to live after that. Like
too much trauma. Too much.
Yeah.
Nah.
That's very fucked up.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely it happens. I'm sure there's a reason she made it. So we'll see. We'll see what it's all about. But I did love the Babadook, and I love the whole, metaphor, and it's just really well made. And it's one of the scariest films I've seen in this decade. So
it's like so sad at the same time too. Yeah. Just like realizing like, damn, like she just is like super depressed, and this is just like her depression haunting the shit out of her. She misses her husband, just making her this ugly human being. Yeah. So sad.
Yeah.
Okay, and then all of you kind of take elements from all these different horror films, into the film and apply it into whatever work you're doing, basically.
I think it's always an inspiration. Yeah. Like I love like not just, I feel like when we talk about horror, I'm not just talking about like slasher films or paranormal films. Like it sort of branches out into like the sort of not paranormal, like the surreal space and the thriller space and this sci-fi space and horror fantasy spaces. Like I know Guillermo del Toro, he's a lover of the Gothic arts, and so like his films are very horror like, but they're very fantasy like and very Gothic. He has like Gothic romances and just like paranormal Gothic, and so like I love that because it's very genre bending. And then like David Lynch is one of my favorites too, and like so I wouldn't say it's very horror, it's more surreal thriller kind of genre. People like him, Darren Aronofsky, I would not consider him a horror director, but I think they're horrifying, like the films he makes sometimes, like Requiem and Black Swan, Pi, like they're scary in some ways, and but very kind of just raw and beautiful and dark at the same time. So like, I don't know, it kind of crosses over a lot of genres. And so I'm very inspired by those filmmakers, and like Claire Denis, I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a French director. Her newest film, I believe, I don't know if she's made anything after this, but High Life It's like a sci-fi film where she's in space with Robert Pattinson. And it's one of my new favorite films. It's so good. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's very similar to, like, I feel like it's very inspired by like 2001: A Space Odyssey. So like Kubrick is another one that, you know, obviously is a big inspiration, and also not per se like I mean, he does horror and he does it well, like The Shining. But he crosses over so many genres, you know, so.
Even 2001 is just like so scary though. Like Hal, what the hell? He's so creepy.
Yeah.
But most people wouldn't consider that horror, you know, it has elements of horror, but not a horror film. So like, I feel like when we talk about horror, I'm talking about all those genres in between. So all of those are huge
It
inspiration.
doesn't need to be boxed in, I think. Like anything honestly can be horror.
Yeah.
Your perception of horror.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of horror is kind of like a mix of psychological, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like that. I mean, you know, I think there's one film, I don't know if you've seen it, actually, most recent films called Midsummer. It's actually yeah. And the reason why I thought that movie was scary, if I've seen it, is because it's about cults, which is real. I mean, there are cults.
Yeah.
But cults are so fascinating.
They are.
I just want to like know like what mindset like someone would have to be in to fall for that. Like it's so wild to me, because like it's not like you have to be stupid. It's just like you have to be at this like point where you just like have this emptiness or something, but it's so like fascinating.
Putting your faith into somebody, you know, it's just really, you can just be like someone that's I don't even know, just I feel like just usually religious people that are the ones often to fall into cults, you know.
Yeah, what's like interesting? It's interesting because all the girls that were like, you know, in the, you know, the whole Charles Manson murders, I mean, they're all young though. They're all like 15, 16-year-old girls. So then
moldable.
The guy just kind of takes advantage of it, you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's crazy.
But Midsummer was cool because I feel like it wasn't just about the cults, but it was about like the perception of a thing based on like what culture and religion you're from. So it's like anthropological in a way, like, you know, the people that were part of that group viewed death a different way. So kind of going back to kind of how like, you know, the Mexican culture views death versus other cultures, or Eastern, Western. I'm sure there's differences in the way that, you know, people view death in that way. So it's sort of, I feel like it's commentary on that as well. And so to some people it's terrifying, to these travelers, but to the people that are doing this, that's how they've always done it, and that's the way that they live their lives, you know. So it's
so like pretty about the movie was like, it was like so aesthetically pleasing, like you would like just watching it with the sound off, you wouldn't like really think like that's where it's gonna go. Right. It's just so dope, but then it's actually really dark.
It was freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
What was
the production design?
Oh my god, I know. Right? Yes.
That's that they built, and like all the art, like, you know, in almost every scene there's stories that are being told, like from the very beginning. There's like art on the walls and picture frames.
Yeah, that's the one they say you need to watch it like a few times, like, and you'll still keep catching a bunch of little foreshadowings and things like that. It's really cool.
I need to watch that again.
Right. Same.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Okay, cool. So I do have a two-part question. You know, I guess the first one would be, you know, moving forward with this Nightshade, I mean, is your goal or your plan to continue to tell stories, you know, like represent kind of your own, I guess, your own color or whatever it is, and tell those stories, or just really just any kind of horror stories?
I feel like we always like to stay true to like ourselves, and always, you know, it always sort of comes into our work, no matter how hard we try to separate ourselves from it. So, you know, it's inevitable. But I think storytelling, in our perspective, is always our biggest goal. And so we're storytellers, and we do it through art, and we do it through, you know, our filmmaking and all that stuff. But I think our main focus right now, we're trying to sort of brand ourselves into more of a photography and creative direction sort of brand. And because I know I mentioned my company Wild 7 Studios, and so I've sort of like separated my filmmaking from my photography and our work. And so because I think it just works better that way, because before we would try to tell people what we were and what we do, and they'd be like, so what do you do? And it was a little confusing. So, but you know, at the same time, like the girls are always working on the Wild 7 project. So we just have this pretty big family, and we always work together, and we
like an umbrella.
Big network, you know, people.
And so, but we do keep our films. We're trying to keep that separate now and sort of just brand ourselves in this way. But
I think just definitely trying to stay authentic to ourselves, like, and no matter who we work with, like we try to work with people whose like views kind of align with ours, and like where aesthetically we're into the same thing. That way we don't have really creative differences. Mm-hmm. But like I love other people's stories and helping them execute their vision. So it all works out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we do have a very specific kind of look, and so we're definitely not for everybody. And so I know we probably scared some people away because they probably just, this isn't their thing. But
I'm telling you, they think we're like
witches.
Crazy witches, you know, demonic.
But if you meet us, we're not at all like that.
Okay. And then final question to kind of wrap it all up is, for each one of you, what advice would you give for aspiring female content creators, female filmmakers?
I'd say just to keep going, be consistent, and keep your blinders on. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, because that is just, what do you say, Ash? It's like the thief of...
Oh, the thief. Comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah.
It is. So and that'll just set you back. So just keep going, be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like be true to yourself, and like if you come from a place of just being authentic, like that's gonna show, and people are gonna relate with that. Yeah. So like no matter like how like niche like your creative direction is, like people are gonna fuck with it if it's real and it's coming from you. So just keep doing what you're doing. The time will pass, and just like make sure like you have a way to, like, you're putting out work, so you see that measurable growth. That'll keep you going.
Yes, I would say pretty much the same thing. And just like, don't give up, you know, keep going. Because, you know, if you're trying to cut corners and find a cheap way, a fast way in, it's never going to happen. Like, it takes time, and you have to really cultivate your brand and just hone your skills. And there is no cheating. Like, you know, you can't just jump over people. Like you have to really know your shit. And so that comes with time and experience. And also just always work on your craft, and don't ever wait for somebody to hire you, or, you know, you can't just be sitting around waiting for something to happen. Always just work on your own thing, and don't take no for an answer. Because if you have a camera, you can do whatever you want to do. You can make a movie.
Yes.
You can show an iPhone now.
Yeah, for sure. We still use iPhones. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, there's really no
good.
If you have a creative eye, then you have it, and people will see that, and there are no excuses at all.
Yeah, no matter like your resources, like especially doing like indie stuff, like the budget is so small sometimes. So like learning to work with small budgets, like you will thrive once you
exactly.
have
I think
bigger
everyone
budgets.
should start. Yeah,
Yes,
definitely. Everyone should start off in indie films, so they know what it's like,
for sure,
and how to work with a small budget, because you can really stretch that dollar. And
it forces you to be creative.
Exactly.
And I guess one last thing too is a quote from my friend. I heard it a while ago, and it always stuck with me. But it's, fortune favors the bold. And, you know, so whenever you're thinking like, I'm not getting what I need, like, ask yourself, are you being bold enough? Are you taking risks? Because I mean, if you're expecting an easy route, this is definitely not the industry. So you definitely have to take some big risks and be bold with your choices. But things definitely go in your favor if you choose to be bold. So I definitely believe that 100%.
Yeah, the universe will take care of you if you're coming from a place of like being a good person.
Yes, genuine.
For sure.
Yeah.
Very good. Very cool. A lot of great advices. And for anyone out there, please, we need more female filmmakers.
Yeah.
So keep going, keep doing it. And this is a good spot to wrap it up. Just want to thank you to my guests. It's been a lovely conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, this was fun.
Yeah.
And I do look forward to, future projects, future work. So I'll continue to tune in. Members Nightshade Collective. So Instagram, everything. They're on everything. So
Yes.
cool.
Yay.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'll see you all again next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.